What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, is Robert DeFelice. What's going on, Rob?
It was the greatest wrestling match ever. Maybe the greatest bait and switch of a tag team title match announcement ever, I think. What do you think, Tony? We got a hell of a show to cover.
I don't know if we have the greatest anything to cover on this.
But definitely better than expected.
Yeah. We'll see. We're going to break down here in the good and the bad, the ugly, the whatever other kinds of adjectives we want to put out there is WWE Backlash 2020, which just went down a few minutes ago. We are getting our fresh reactions to this, our first opinions, because we obviously hadn't had the time to watch it a second time, nor would I want to watch this a second time. Maybe one or two matches, check back in the future, but for the most part, no. And I want to preface this ahead of time. I'm making fun of this and making it seem like I hated everything. I didn't hate everything. So if everybody's like, oh God, here we go. No, there's some good stuff in here too. But whether you liked it or hated it, I want to know what all of your opinions are as well. So by all means, keep the discussion going in the comments section below. If you are listening to us on a platform that does not have a comment section, you can't do that because that's not how it works. And if you figure out a way to do that, then that's awesome. But I recommend going over to the YouTube channel, and instead of using Spotify or Stitcher or iTunes or any of that kind of stuff, which is still perfectly fine, the YouTube stuff's what we really try to target towards here, because you get the chance to not only give the like button a little hit and subscribe if you haven't done that already and ring that little notification bell, but you can also just respond to other people's comments and stuff. So tell us your thoughts. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? What's going on here? We're going to break down all the results. We're going to break down our thoughts of all the matches, one thing that wasn't a match, and anything else that we're going to talk about here. Standard operating procedure.
I apologize in advance, because when we get to that, this shit is going off the rails.
It probably will. And not in a way like the hot tags were, where I was just so out of it. Like, my allergies were just destroying me. Obviously, I sound much better right now. I am not sneezing every 2 seconds and practically, like, passing out and stuff. So that's great. How you feeling? How you feeling after Backlash, too?
You know, I'm feeling better than I thought I would be after Backlash. I'm in the middle of, like, an extra workload. I've got a New Japan show to cover in like 8 hours, so we're rocking here, and I'll feel it eventually. But right now, I can't say I'm feeling pretty bad. Although I never want to see anything involving the Raw tag team scene ever again.
Well, it's like around 10:30 now that we started this, and we've been talking about how they keep ending a little bit early or so, and we're setting up the podcast and stuff, so it's not like it just ended at 10:30, but I mean, we didn't get as much of a break as the 9 something or other that we got the last time, but I still feel like it ended a little bit early, and that's kind of good.
I understand why this one went a little long. They were trying to make a statement with that main event. The main event needed a little more extra time. I love the fact that these end earlier. I never want them to go back to ending at 11:30.
Yeah, I agree.
I just think that's a positive change from the COVID era,
Especially considering when you look at this and it's a filler pay-per-view. Filler pay-per-views do not need to be WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Well, let's start breaking down the card itself, and I got a lot of different reactions. You can check them all out on eWrestling News, where I posted that I was going throughout the actual, like, while watching it and making some notes and stuff, but we had our pre-show. The only thing that I had really written down about the pre-show was that they showed off that new music video and the new song for John Morrison and The Miz. I don't remember. It's the first one was Hey Hey Ho Ho. This one's Hey Hey Hey.
Hey. This is Hey Hey Hey.
So is the next one just going to be Ho Ho Ho?
If there is a next one.
It's just going to be Santa Claus in that one, I guess?
Maybe we're booking Christmas already, Tony.
Oddly enough, the song's kind of catchy.
It is.
It's really, like, that was kind of bothering me, that I was like, this is getting a little stuck in my head. It's a lot better than that "This is the greatest show" thing.
Yeah, if you're gonna job these dudes out, at least let them show their fun side, and they did. I can't say I love what The Miz is doing right now, or John Morrison for that matter, but this was a good utilization of their strengths.
You have any other notes about the pre-show other than the match itself?
Scott Stanford, never bad. I'm sick of Sam Roberts. I'm sick of Peter Rosenberg. But, Scott Stanford's a guy I wish they would have leaned on a little bit more throughout the years.
Stanford reminds me of, like, if they only had him, he would be the Todd Pettengill of this era.
I was going to call him Mean Gene because he's got that very, like, he's just a legitimate announcer. He's not some guy who they find and turn into an announcer because they don't want them to be a wrestler,
Yeah, like the NXT broadcast people, all the interviewers and everything.
Yeah. Like, how
it's like, oh,
it
you
used
can't
to
wrestle.
be.
Do you want to hold a microphone? Do you want to do an announcing job? Do you want to do it?
Remember, like, half the women they used to hire to be like, oh, well, we'll put you in the ring. Never mind, you want to hold the microphone?
Right.
Like, so I like Stanford. That's my takeaway from the pre-show. I always enjoy Renee Young. I wish she was doing more. I feel like they really took their foot off the gas with her lately, and I don't like that. I think she's one of the best they have, and I want her to do more. But yeah, that's better for the pre-show, except for the match itself, of course.
And the match was Apollo Crews retaining the United States Championship against Andrade. And my only note is I wish I had anything to say about this, but I don't, because it was as generic as you can get. Like, this was nothing different from what we haven't seen already on Raw or the other matches that they've had. You literally had the whole, like, the heels got somebody ringside that gets involved, and another person gets involved in that, and then it leads to a distraction, and that's the end of the thing. It's a Raw
been the
match.
same 4 dudes, and I feel like it'll be the same 4 dudes.
Yeah, like, this is it wasn't bad, and I'm going to say that about a lot of things. It wasn't bad, but that doesn't mean that it's good.
It just wasn't necessary.
Yeah, it's I mean, I like watching reruns of TV shows if I really like the episodes here and there. Like, I watched The Simpsons a bunch of different times, the first 10 seasons. I've watched plenty of reruns and everything when it comes to Scrubs and Seinfeld and whatever like that, but I don't like watching reruns of wrestling matches that are supposed to be new matches.
Well, that's the problem. It's like, you like watching the first 10 seasons of The Simpsons, but you don't like when season 31 rehashes a plot that was seen in season 8 and season 15 and season, like...
Yeah, there's only so many times you can watch When Did
How many times
Homer
can
and
Bart
Marge...
turn 8?
Yeah. Or like, hey, one member of the family gets a new job, and it's this one. It's like, okay, I get it. I understand it at this point.
Hey, Homer and Marge met in the 90s somehow.
In the 2000s, in the 2010s, and
The point is, Simpsons needs to stop, and so do repeat matches.
I'm pretty sure at this point, The Simpsons has already had Apollo Crews versus Andrade somehow.
I bet it was the same match there too.
Probably. Apollo Crews retained. That's good. They didn't just have him drop the title back to the previous champion and make his whole run completely pointless, but this doesn't do anything for me. I don't feel any excitement to see Crews against Garza or Owens or Andrade, even though I like all 4 of them.
I think the payoff here is either Garza gets the job done and then Andrade gets kicked to the curb, or
I can see that.
Owens and Apollo. This ends up breaking off into Owens and Apollo turns heel because he's too afraid to lose the title now that he's relevant. Or both, quite frankly.
Those could be fun, and I wish that they would just start doing that a little bit instead of... Well, we had Crews against Andrade, then we had Crews against Andrade, and then let's do a number 1 contenders match to set up Crews against Andrade. Yeah, that's the difference. Not a fan when they do that, but it was a match, as Drew would say. Then we had the triple threat for the Women's Tag Team Championship, Bayley and Banks against Bliss and Cross against the IIconics. So all 3 teams have their own separate names. The IIconics are the only ones that they actually go with. Bayley and Banks apparently have a new team name. They're not the Boss and Hug Connection anymore. Now they're the Golden Role Models.
Can I reiterate, please, that I hate everything done with Bayley since October?
I'll go back even further than that. I think since maybe Money in the Bank last year.
Like, they took the one character they had and made her just another I'm the best, look at me, I'm the best type of wrestler. And don't get me wrong, she looks like she's having a blast. It's hard to fully hate something when the person performing it looks like they're having the time of their lives. And I'm happy for her, but I am just not having the time of my life.
Not having the time of my life. And I owe it all to Bayley and Banks because I'm sick of this feud. I just want them to feud already and get it over with, and I don't even want to see the feud. I just don't want to have them tease it anymore.
Let's talk positives.
Bliss.
On NXT.
Peyton Royce.
Well, yes.
Those are positives.
Yes. But on NXT, we're going to get to see Banks and Bayley against Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackheart.
True.
And I actually think that'll be really fun.
Yeah, I mean, Bayley in the ring, fine. Sasha Banks in the ring, a little bit nervous sometimes to see what she does, because sometimes it's a little like, ooh, that's going to hurt or something. But, very solid performer. Put them against Shotzi and Tegan. That's going to be a lot of fun. But at the same time, when I know that that's going to lead to Shotzi and Tegan just losing and Bayley and Banks just probably cutting a promo before the match and after the match or something and taking up a lot of time on NXT, it makes me go, oh man, I wish NXT was like 20 minutes shorter,
Yeah, like when it used to be an hour.
Yeah.
Different topic entirely.
And a lot more efficient to get around that, but that's another story for another day. The match itself, not bad. I mean, I
enjoyed it.
Yeah. I don't want it to seem like I'm crapping on this. It wasn't a bad match.
I was surprised at the finish. I went into the predictions. I said, I think it's the IIconics. I think they just get these things off Sasha and Bayley very quickly. And they did not.
One thing I didn't like was that I didn't feel like this match did anything to push the story further. I actually think that they backtracked even.
I would agree with that.
So that, of course, makes me nervous because then I go, oh, God, now we're even further away from that.
Because if you look at the match where they won, they really looked like they were on the outs.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I don't like, and I'm sure you feel the same way because you're just hating the constant teasing, is they're putting so much goddamn emphasis on, this is it. Hey, Sasha, you guys might lose the belts. Hey, Bayley, if you lose the belts, is your friendship over? Like, how bad would that be? How bad of friends do you have to be if it's like, you know what, Tony, you and I are going to go for these podcast awards, and if we don't win, we're just not friends anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
What the fuck is that?
I just chalk that up to really bad storytelling that they think, and we're going to come back to this twice, if not more. They think that everybody's so stupid of an audience member that it's like if they don't spell it out 100% like that you're going to somehow get lost in the complexity of this. It's like, this isn't Shakespeare.
I also think you had a cut and dry story, and you just totally went the other way by turning Bayley into this mega bitch heel. Because the story was simple. Bayley is a loyal friend because she's a sweetheart and a hugger, and Sasha is selfish and manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
Banks heel, Bayley face. The end. You're going the other way around about it, so you're going to have to find a way to make Sasha the baby face. And while you can do it, there's just times where you can see that's not natural.
Another thing that's not natural about the whole thing is they waited until Sasha came back from what she was calling kind of like a nervous breakdown or something like that, which is a very babyface type of thing. Is like, I stepped away for my mental health and this was real tough, but I really have passion for the business and whatever like that. So I'm a heel now. And it's like, and now Bayley's a heel now. It's like, so you want me to sympathize with her and hate her guts and also hate the hugger, and now they're going to split and one of them is going to turn face at some point and we're going to wait months and months and it's so awful.
Like Banks leaving, I still think is the one story device that they have to go to in order to make it seem like Bayley, has been plotting this deception. Because, as you said, Banks left because she had just a bit of a nervous breakdown, but Bayley stayed. Banks came back as a heel, okay, So what are you going to do with Bayley? Well, it's against my nature, but I'm going to stand by my friend. All you had to do is have Sasha switch and turn on Bayley. But by going this long way around, you now have to have Bayley be like, fuck you, you left me alone, you're a terrible friend, and like I just want to see you fail. Like you have to go there now. And if they don't go there and they just have Sasha win because, Bayley, I'm sick of your mouth, it'll work because they're good in the ring, but it's not as compelling as it could be. And that is, I think, the point missed with Sasha and Bayley specifically, is they rely too much on the fact that they had this great match 5 years ago and they're great in the ring. And they don't tell the stories that they try so hard to tell with a Charlotte Flair or a Becky Lynch. Sasha and Bayley can tell those stories too, but you don't go to any story device with those two other than, well, will they or won't they fight each other?
Oh, they full blown just rely on that one match.
Yeah, and it's annoying.
This is how many years now where they basically like, remember that one match?
And I'll go even further because of the greatest match ever stuff. They were talking about that match on the bump and how, oh man, that match changed everything. And it's like, yeah, and I do it to myself a lot and shock myself, but that was 5 years ago. You're gonna tell me you guys haven't done anything with them in 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
Do something.
What they did here was fine enough match, but it really, like we said, it just sort of pushed aside Bliss Cross Applesauce and the IIconics. They're just like, okay, we have no tag teams. Is that really
their name? Because you crack me up every time with that.
They got a T-shirt.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bliss Cross Applesauce. That's so amazing.
But it's I got a couple little notes here of things like Peyton Royce's dive didn't really work out the way that she planned.
Never do that fucking shit again.
Yeah.
Never again. What was that even necessary for?
Everybody does dives.
Jesus Christ, please be careful.
I have another note that Boa was in the crowd and he was completely not reacting to anything, just stone-faced, and then he decided to give a thumbs down to I think it was the IIconics, I don't remember, it's one of the heels, but I was like, that's not how crowd reactions work. Like, we need to have all the audio.
And in the recent releases.
Nah, that's Rocky.
Yeah,
there's a lot of confusion about who got released on all that, but Bo is still around. But yeah, he was just like, just staring, and then eventually thumbs down, and I was just like, it's
who's
nonverbal.
The dude? He was kind of tall. He had like, he kind of looked like the Tough Enough winner, the Silent Rage guy. He almost looks like.
You might be talking about Cal Bloom.
No. I know who Cal Bloom is because he's got the blonde hair. This guy's got like really. It's brown hair. It's really long. He's got a bit of a mustache and beard. He was towards the left side of the entrance ramp. I couldn't figure out who he was, but he seemed to tower over everybody.
If I saw a picture of him, I might be able to point him out, but there's a lot of people that I just don't know what they look like yet, like Anthony Francis, and
he's always wearing the hat. I know who he is.
Okay.
Because he's the guy who's always wearing the hat in the background. Did you see Mansoor during the?
Mansoor popped up. Yeah, that's. I guess he's still around. Yeah. So we got the tag team champions. They stay the same, and there goes all the tag teams on the main roster, I guess. At this point,
they really need some new tag teams. Put Nia Jax in a tag team.
Oh God, at this point. Let's see. Quick plug here. I've mentioned before you should drop a comment below and you should tell us your thoughts on things. But if you want to hear more of our thoughts on other things, there's lots of different ways for you to make sure that we do kind of extra stuff. One of them is through the Patreon. Patreon.com/SmarkOutMoment. If you want to help support us on the monetary side of things, you want to toss some spare change our way to do anything in particular, and you want to specifically request that, take advantage of the Pick Your Poison tier, because that is where you can request some kind of a special feature, some kind of a gimmick of some sorts, whether it's an editorial on the website or something on the podcast side of things, like a fan announce table or superstar scores or something like that. We also have the same thing for fanboysanonymous.com. We'll talk more about potential cinematic type stuff later on. But if you like things on the movie side of stuff, you know, TV shows, comic books, video games, all the my God, my voice, all the geek culture stuff. That's how words work.
You say words for a living, Tony.
I really do. I type words and I say words, and sometimes I'm just kind of like, and it's just like, that's not how that one was. But the geek culture stuff is what I was trying to say. That is where you'll find that stuff, fanboysanonymous.com. And if you want me to do more stuff over there, then hit up the Patreon for that. But $10 and up gives you access to the Patreon exclusive episodes for those different sides of things. And even $1 goes a long way. So thank you to everybody who supports the Patreon. Thank you to everybody who's considering supporting the Patreon. And for those who can't, totally understand. But if you support us in any way, it's greatly appreciated. Even if it's just a like on this video, or you pass something around, or you like us on Facebook, or retweet something on Twitter, all that stuff. Awesome. And that makes you awesome.
If you just like us as people, we thank you.
Yeah, that's good. You know, never going to be opposed to that. Also, just a plug out here right now. I have a note about the Sexy Superstars tournaments going on right now. Go ahead and vote on the qualifying round, part 2. We are determining who the 32 men and women are for this tournament for this year. So if you are a big fan of the 6 women that are a part of this, or any of the men and women that were or weren't a part of anything else tonight, then go ahead and vote as much as you can. A lot of people already eliminated from the first round, of course, of the qualifiers, but we still got 64 or 66 or so. Kind of depends on how many people got into that first round thing. I didn't really count as 60 something or other, but you get to pick 32. So go ahead and do that. Show your support. Anyway, let's move on to Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus. This was a match that at first I had nothing to say about, but even though specifically I don't have a whole lot, like, you know, oh, there's one move happened and this is whatever like that, I liked this match a lot. I thought it was really good.
It was fine. I want to back up a little bit further here and just talk about real quick Extreme Rules. Had a promo, and that color scheme screams Jeff Hardy needs to do something major on this pay-per-view, because it's that Hardy Boys purple and green.
Yeah, that yellowish green type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I guess kudos to them for updating their logo, but it seems like Jeff Hardy should be getting a world title shot just based on the logo alone. Outside of that, match was fine. I really enjoyed the finish spot where Jeff tried to be Jeff and run across the hockey boards, which are barricading the fans, and Sheamus just bro kicked him. And he threw him in the ring and bro kicked him again. Jeff Hardy may not be giving into alcoholism, but after those devastating bro kicks, we need to get Dr. Kirschenbaum back out of here to check him for ligma. You know, like...
He'll dab him. It'll be okay. Check out that guy, everybody. It's amazing. Dr. Kirschenbaum.
Look up Fiverr Doctor on YouTube and just enjoy.
Yeah, I recommend checking that out. Sheamus won by pinfall. They are very clearly going to continue this feud, but I am totally on board with that as far as just the match itself, because I dug this quite a bit. This was one of my favorite matches of the night. And if they put these two together in another match and it's got gimmicks involved, you know, that the right type of gimmicks, let me reiterate that. If this is a cinematic thing, it's going to be awful. But if you just put these two in a no holds barred match or something,
they're going to fight in an AA meeting.
It might be. And if that happens, that's going to ruin everything. But the physical chemistry, I think that they worked really well together.
Yeah, I was happy with it.
Thumb up. Or thumbs up or whatever. We never really established how that works, but thumbs up, I guess, from my end. And I can't say more of the opposite when it comes to the next match, which was Asuka against Nia Jax for the Raw Women's Championship. This fucking sucked.
Let's just cut to the ending here. They fucking did a draw, a double count out. And like, listen, you're in a nearly empty arena. You can hear the referee. Get in the ring. Mm-hmm. What are you doing? Like, I hated this just because double count out means we're going to Extreme Rules, and I don't want that.
It's not even like everything was leading up to the double count out and was great. Everything leading up to that still sucked. They started off slow. They were acting a minute into this match as if they had wrestled for a half an hour. It was the whole, like, each move is like, "Oh, now we're gonna lay down for 30 seconds and stuff." I'm like, "Was this the last woman standing match or something? This is awful." It's already on my list of one of the worst matches of the year because this was just boring. Asuka is fun, and Nia Jax,
When utilized properly,
when
can be good.
I don't know if I've ever seen a match of hers that I actually really liked, but the big man, big woman style match, whatever you want to call it, it can work. But it has to be fun. It's not like you take the big superstar against the smaller superstar and you show off the power game by having the small superstar not do anything. This was like Asuka's working on Nia's arm, and that's just kind of boring because it's like, all right, it makes sense, but you have to do it in a fun way. I don't want to watch a headlock for a half hour where it's like, oh, okay, well, he's doing that because he's hurting his neck. I know he's hurting his neck, but it's boring. It's like watching when you like watch like an MMA thing, like UFC or something, and the two people are constantly just like dancing back and forth and throwing punches that they're missing.
Or they're just like really positioning in like a grapple position, and it's just like you see a lot of squirming, but not a lot is happening.
Right. Like that's boring to watch. And in WWE, it's scripted. You can tell them to not do that.
Right, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. It's like in MMA, it's one thing because you can argue like, wow, these guys are actually, physically feeling each other out. In wrestling, and especially in a wrestling match with two characters like this, you don't need it. And honestly, Nia Jax might be one of the few people who I've enjoyed better as a babyface. I thought
Me
that
too.
the run she had with Bliss was probably the best thing she's done. And in ring wise, I thought her two best matches were ironically one on Raw with Asuka, the one where Asuka kept her in an armbar for like 5 minutes. And like Nia was fighting it and fighting it, and that's how they turned her face. And the match she had at Money in the Bank with Ronda, I thought simple story told. They had the out card with Bliss, but like to me, Nia's worked better as a babyface.
I agree. And I just hated everything about this match. And I was just so bored from how slow it was and how pointless it was. And then it ends in a double count out. And I'm like, oh, that's great to tell me if you liked this, you're going to get more of it. And if you didn't like it, you're going to get more of it anyway. Because
Yeah,
it's like,
suck
okay,
it.
now I'm going to have to wait an entire extra month of building. Because I think it's what, July 19th is Extreme Rules?
Yep.
So it's the 14th right now. You're going to have to wait a whole month and a week, essentially, just to see the two of these people against each other again. And maybe if we're lucky, they can use weapons, which means, let's be honest, that if it ends up being Asuka versus Nia or Asuka versus Nia versus Charlotte, because they'll probably throw Charlotte in there, that they'll probably just use kendo sticks.
Honestly, put the belt on Charlotte.
I don't want to see Charlotte versus Nia. I don't want to see Asuka versus Nia. I don't want to see Asuka versus Charlotte at this point, but I really
It's not a knock on Asuka either. I love Asuka, but Charlotte. Like if you're gonna go there, just go there.
just this whole thing was like such a downer for me. And I said before, like the first two matches, I was like, yeah, they're good, whatever, nothing special. Sheamus and Hardy, I'm like, yeah, it was a step in the right direction, good. This was just like the hell with it, And unfortunately, they didn't follow it up with anything all that great either. The handicap match between John Morrison and The Miz against Braun Strowman, I am a big fan of all three, but it started off with something that I want to call attention to. This is the second time that they've had Braun Strowman interrupt a music video.
Well, you should have watched the bump.
Well, no, it's not a matter of like the problem being that he interrupted it. It's why are they thinking that that's particularly funny?
It's just a babyface thing to do. I don't know if they think it's funny.
Well, they did the exact same thing on SmackDown. Why do it on a pay-per-view? Somebody must be popping for it. I don't know if it's Vince or if it's Bruce or if it's both, but somebody must find it really funny to have it be like, look at the music video.
Vince
and then,
probably wants Braun to go chugga 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 choo choo. I mean, like, his whole thing apparently is that he's a train now.
He's a train with a car that people beat up.
Oh, we're gonna get there, Tony.
Mm-hmm. Now, I like that they made it to where they announced that either John Morrison or The Miz would be the champion, and they couldn't be co-champions, and that they worked that into the match with The Miz kind of interrupting and then being like, "Oh crap, no, like I shouldn't have broken that up, and I like you as champion better and whatever." I liked that, but that doesn't mean that the match was really all that great. It was kind of meh.
Whatever. Like,
It's filler
I'm
for a
sorry.
filler pay-per-view.
I'm sorry. This was so. There was never a doubt in my mind, and
No.
then they threw in at the last second the monkey wrench that was gonna get, Miz to turn on Morrison. And why do you need that? You need tag teams. What the fuck?
Not in this era, I guess.
I didn't like it, and the one thing that surprised me was how little of a SmackDown presence there seemed to be on this show. We had like a full hour, maybe even an hour and a half, I felt like, without Michael Cole saying a word.
I mean, yeah, most of the matches were Raw. You had the WWE title, Raw Women's title, Raw Tag Team title, Apollo Crews, US title. I guess it's because they had the whole, like, the Intercontinental was on the SmackDown side of things, and I guess you could argue, like, oh, there's the part where, like, Otis popped up, and it's like, but that's not, they didn't do anything with that.
I don't know. I'm not liking, and I touched on this already. I don't want to dwell on it, but I'm not liking the overall direction of SmackDown.
No, me neither. Then again, I'm not really loving the direction of Raw or NXT at this point either. NXT, of course, still the better one, but still confusing in some ways. But I do like, at the very least, what they've been doing with Bobby Lashley so far. I don't like the Lana thing at all, but they've been heading in the direction of getting rid of that, and I like that. And they had Lashley look pretty strong here against Drew McIntyre. He attacked him before the match started, laid him in, really powerful attacks here and there. McIntyre doesn't look like a complete weakling, of course, because you can't make him look weak and all that, but they have a strong match. And Lana comes out, and she immediately messes things up for Lashley and costs him.
And it was over. With Lana coming out, I think there was about 45 seconds between her showing her face and the match being over.
Which was good, too, because if she would have stood out there and been, like, shrieking and stuff, it would have been annoying. So I liked how they did this. I thought this is one of the better things of the night.
I thought the match was... like, they went for things, and it was a little sloppy. But I liked that it was sloppy because they're two big dudes and they were fighting. It didn't need to be clean. And I really like this, and I think there's money in Lashley as a world champion. Don't give up on that idea. Lashley should be a world champion for a few months at the very least.
How would you like to see them take this in the future? Like, what should they do at Extreme Rules and SummerSlam, in your mind?
Extreme Rules could be a cage match, and I think maybe that's the end of the McIntyre Lashley program for now. But McIntyre should then go on to somebody like Randy Orton, while Lashley fights Brock Lesnar. I want that match, Tony, and I deserve to get it, and I think you want to see it too, and you deserve to get it. And damn it, I think you need to do that before it's too late.
I don't know how to really get to the same idea, but I do agree with you. I think that Lashley versus Lesnar and McIntyre versus Orton would be a really good setup for SummerSlam, and I don't know if this is the right way to do it, but here's just a random pitch. You go with a cage match. I thought the same kind of thing. And it ends with Lashley looking like he's got a chance to win, but maybe Lesnar comes out and ruins it or something. Maybe.
And Lesnar tries to ruin it for McIntyre because he beat him in 5 minutes, but actually costs Lashley the match, and then they fight.
Yep, you do something like that, and in the meantime, the two of them are arguing that, like, Lashley thinks that he deserves another shot because Lesnar came in and he screwed things over. Lesnar says, well, you didn't get the job done. Well, of course, Lesnar doesn't say it because he stands there, and Paul Heyman says it, but Heyman points out, you didn't get the job done. What are you talking about? You don't deserve a title match, whatever like that. Randy Orton can come out and go, what the hell are you guys talking about? You guys just lost your title shots and whatever like that. I just beat Edge in the greatest wrestling match ever, blah, blah, blah. Spoiler alert, Randy Orton won tonight. And he wins some kind of like a beat the clock challenge or something like that. Like, you keep them away from each other a little bit, but he wins some kind of a number one contender spot for SummerSlam. And that way you can pivot away.
And then, not to book too far in the woods, but the story with McIntyre and Randy, very simple. You were the chosen one. You know, you dropped the ball. Congratulations. Business is in my blood. I'm always going to be the chosen one. Fuck off. Here's an RKO. So match.
Yeah, and it's only a couple weeks. I think so. Maybe I'm blanking on that. Actually, when the difference is between Extreme Rules and SummerSlam, it might be a little bit more than I'm thinking about that. Let me double check.
It might be about a full month, 4 weeks.
July 19th and August 23rd. So that's a full month. But, you know, I mean, it's something fresh a little bit. And I would like to see MVP and Bobby Lashley in that kind of scenario with Lesnar, and to do something different. And I'd give Lashley the win for that matter. And of course, they totally wouldn't do that, but at least we would get the match finally.
Lashley's the one guy, always has been, always will be, who can legitimately beat Brock Lesnar, and it wouldn't be like, oh, look at that.
For that matter, put them in the fight pit.
I agree. I agree.
And then you got yourselves a match that can really make the SummerSlam card look like it's something special.
Even if it's only in front of a Performance Center crowd, which I have a feeling it won't be.
Might not be. That's true. But here's the thing. When we're doing all these kinds of pay-per-views lately, that's true. What does it boil down to? Tell me.
Here's what it boils down to, Tony. Not on the bump, and I watched the bump meticulously, thoroughly, for announcements for Otis and Corbin, or, you know, something with SmackDown Tag Titles, or this match, because it was pretty much a given. On Twitter, they announced Raw Tag Team Championship match, Viking Raiders, and Street Profits.
You know, the match that was like very clearly, obviously supposed to happen, and they for some reason didn't announce on Raw and all this other kind of stuff. They wait until the day of. Okay. Right. Stupid enough as it is. We've talked about it a million times that that's stupid, but whatever.
And then we get there, Tony. And they go, wait, there's a commotion outside. And for some reason, these two teams are so pissed off now after playing bowling and golf and whatever, that they're just beating the shit out of each other, and they're on top of Braun Strowman's car.
That's the first note that I have, is these two teams are not bitter enough with each other to be fighting backstage.
Like, they were fighting, like, whoa, I've had enough of you, and let's go, and somebody gets body slammed on the hood of Braun Strowman's car.
Breaking the windshield for the second time in a week.
And they run into the building going, oh shit, that's Braun Strowman's car. He's gonna be mad at us. Let's go. And then all of a sudden this dramatic music kicks in, Tony. And we've got these teams fighting backstage. And I'm watching this with my friends, and I go, why are there golf clubs? And is that a bowling ball? And then all of a sudden, Profits pick up the golf clubs. Viking Raiders magically have shields and axes. And they're like teasing, fighting each other. And then they put all weapons down. And what do the five fingers say to the face? Slap. Street Profits slap the Viking Raiders. And then we get like a random dream sequence of Ivar dreaming about bowling. And then he rolls a bowling ball into the crotch of Montez Ford.
Which, shout out to Caroline, had a little reference here. She said that the way that Montez Ford was holding that with like the red outfit that he had on and the green bowling ball, she's like, is he cosplaying as a sriracha bottle? I thought that was great.
You know, we keep going though. we fucking keep going.
And
And then
I have a note to myself. I said, why are they continually breaking Strowman's windshield? Who is getting off to this? And then I have another thing. So this isn't going to be a match at all, isn't it? It's going to be a random cinematic fight thing again. I have a feeling this isn't going to be great. And then the next note,
and then
yep, this is awful. The music and the flashbacks are all just so bad because that's what we were getting. We were getting things like Montez Ford gets hit with the bowling ball, and it's like, let's intercut things and let's have like sound effects and stuff. And it's
we
like,
don't know why though. We don't know why because they announced them for a match and then just randomly, I hate you so much, we're gonna fight. And
it's presented as happening live too. Remember that. This isn't one of those things where it's like, this is earlier
and a lot
in
of
the night.
show was actually live, except for I'm guessing the last live thing was McIntyre and Lashley.
Probably, yeah. But like, if you're going to try to market this as like, this is just happening, you've got like the wavy Looney Tunes dream effect thing going on and stuff. Like, come on, this is so stupid. Like, nobody believes in this garbage. And the jokes are so lame. Like the 5 fingers say to the face thing. I wrote down a thing on here. I said, are the writers just discovering middle school joke books from the 90s?
It seems like, and we're going to talk about this a lot going forward because Bruce Pritchard runs both shows. And I've already mentioned that I feel like Vince is just being nostalgic for the 80s. And I do think this would have fit very well if this was like the Nasty Boys and the Natural Disasters in like on 1991 or something. But then we get outside and
there's one good spot, getting tackled through the window.
Ivar gets tackled through the window, and then all of a sudden they pick each other up like, yo, how did this get so heavy? What's going on? Why are we doing this? And Ivar again, let's take this outside. We are outside. And then bikes show up.
Motorcycles show up out of nowhere. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know where they're going here, but yeah, I'm thinking, I don't know where they're going here, but maybe they're going to debut a new tag team. Maybe they've got a stable coming on and the stable is going to beat the shit out of them. Instead, it's Akira Tozawa and a bunch of masked ninjas.
And to be fair, I'm still at this point going, oh my god, they're actually going to use Akira Tozawa? And then he says, supposedly in Japanese, anything you can do, we can do better. And the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits have a huddle. And they say, we have to unite as one and become, what is it, the Viking Prophets?
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't go with the Street Raiders.
Well, maybe not today's climate. So they're the Viking Prophets, and then they beat up the ninjas
in full on like Jackie Chan movie type
full
of
fucking like cheesy live action Scooby-Doo movie, Freddie Prinze Jr. Really awkward stuff.
The type of action that you see in like the old Sean Connery Bond films when they sped up the footage in Dr. No and stuff.
Right. And then Tozawa's not done. And he's doing some weird stuff with his hands. But out comes fucking Big Jordan. And if you don't know who this is like a 7-foot+ dude.
Yeah, he's like 9'8" or whatever. Like,
and he's in a giant fucking ninja outfit. And he takes out a sword, to which Ivar, because they really like Ivar, uses the Force and summons a turkey thigh. And for whatever reason, they say, no, fuck this, we're out of here. And they climb on top of the production truck and they start Scooby-Doo running away from the 8-foot ninja, who, by the way, we never see again.
No. You want to know something about the height of Jordan?
I do.
He is 7'3".
You know what? He's big.
You know who else is big?
Tell me.
Babatunde. You know how big Babatunde is?
He's pretty big. And you know what?
He is 6'9".
Wow.
So Babatunde is big and other people aren't. Big
But
Jordan,
Big Jordan
bigger than
is bigger.
Babatunde.
Like,
We might have to change the Babatunde joke to the Big Jordan one.
I want more of the ninjas. I'm gonna be honest. If you bothered to bring them, give me more of the ninjas, and have Tozawa be some weird like sensei to this big 7'3" dude. But we don't get any of that. Instead, what we get is a fat joke because Ivar can't run so fast when they're all running away from the guy. And
despite the fact that the dude could do cartwheels and shit.
And they're laughing, and it's funny, and And then one of the Raiders or one of the Prophets, doesn't matter, they all end up in a fucking dumpster after Ivar yells, "Air Ivar," and does a swanton bomb into this dumpster. And then he has another fantasy of all the skits where the women were like, "You're cute. You?" At Eric, not so much. So then, I can't believe this isn't over. But then Jessica Carr, who magically knows, let me check the fucking dumpster. Go, what are you guys doing in here? Your match is next. Oh, Ivar, you're cute. You? Not so much. And then Montez Ford starts singing, "She wants the smoke, she wants Ivar, not Eric." And then the fucking Cloverfield creature or something reaches a tentacle out in the dumpster and they all run away.
And they cut back to the commentary team who says, "Well, that match isn't happening." It's like, well, you can go fuck yourselves then. Like, these suck.
What the fuck was that?
I said this with the Money in the Bank thing and some of these other things. Look, I am all for comedy and stuff. I am all for, if a good joke is good, a bad joke is embarrassing. And I will full on like have no problems whatsoever with like some of the fun things that WWE has done in the past that are silly. Like, look at my number 2 favorite of all time. It's The Undertaker. And if you haven't seen the Max Landis video, watch it, where he's talking about John Cena and Triple H and Undertaker and all them. The undead wizard, fucking all that other kind of stuff, insane. Undertaker is an insane character. Kane is an insane character. Paul Bearer, the guy's name is Paul Bearer. It's stupid. I fully admit it. It's dumb. There is no explanation for it other than when people make fun of me for like watching wrestling and this being my job, and I go, "Oh, I know it's dumb, but it's fun dumb." This is not fun dumb. This is just dumb.
And I will admit, I had no problem with the anything you can do, we can do better. I had no problem with the basketball, the axe throwing, the golf.
I did and I didn't. Like, if you told me, okay, we're going to start booking the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders and anything I could do, you could do better type of thing with like a bunch of different sports and whatever like that, totally cool. Remember MVP and Matt Hardy?
Matt Hardy, yeah.
Great. But when you start doing the weird, like, you know, like the Looney Tunes type stuff, it's like, okay, well, at what point are they quite literally, at this point, going to have somebody drop an anvil on somebody's head and show them flattened with CGI? They're going to do it.
You know, and even in this stupid segment, I can get over the ninja as long as you do something with that. Even if it's one time only, you have Akira Tozawa and Big Jordan do a ninja thing, right? What the fuck is the deal with the tentacle in the dumpster?
And like, did they just watch Star Wars recently, and that's why they have the Force and the garbage monster with a tentacle? And why did they need to put that in the Performance Center parking lot?
And why is that here? And what, like,
why is that in a match that you announced on the day of instead of doing something like maybe you set up ahead of time? Like, even just as a promotional tool, if you love this, which there's some people out there, I'm sure Vince McMahon's one of them, that loves this, and everybody's got their own different opinions. Some people like some garbage TV shows. Some people like I don't know. Some people like watching the news. Like, there's plenty of different things for people out there. For some reason, the Home Garden Network, it still exists after all this time. But like, whether you're somebody who watches the Shopping Network or not, or you're somebody who likes Epic Movie instead of Naked Gun, which is Naked Gun's not even in the same league, is so much better than superhero movie and all that crap. There's people for everything. Some people like this stuff. If you want to appeal to them, advertise the match ahead of time as being something like that. On Raw, they could have said, you know what? They did the decathlon.
All you do is say
and
we're gonna fight.
even just that. But if they wanted to go in that direction, say they did the decathlon, and you know what? At Backlash, they're gonna fight, and then everything I can do, you can do better. I can do better than you, or whatever the hell. Gimmicky match of whatever they want to call it. And then the people that are digging this, like the ones that are like, the Money in the Bank was so fun, and the Boneyard match was great, and the whatever this is, the people like that really love that stuff are gonna want to tune into Backlash. But you didn't announce it. You waited until the day of, and it was like, I don't know, like 2:00. I noticed that they had done that, and so it's like a couple hours before to announce a regular match, and then you do this. So anybody who wanted to see a regular match that didn't get it, that's annoying. Anybody who thought, well, they didn't do anything with the Street Profits or whatever ahead of time, maybe didn't know that it was going to be on the card. And anybody who wanted to see this gimmicky thing wouldn't have known if they would have seen that it wouldn't have been one of those matches. So you didn't appeal to anybody. And I'm sure if I was 9 years old again, I would think that this was a lot more fun, but it's beyond silly and stupid.
You still haven't answered my question, Tony. Why is there a tentacle in the garbage? What is the purpose of this? Like, I don't want to be... Listen, people like to shit on Jim Cornette. And I get it. The dude says a lot of dumb shit, especially as it pertains to...
controversial statements and stuff here and there.
Yeah, like, he says dumb shit. But why is this in the wrestling show? There's no reason.
I mean, this has got to be making Jim Cornette have like an aneurysm every night he watches this, right?
I mean, like, he can probably laugh it off because he can just go, oh, fuck it, it's Vince. Vince doesn't like wrestling, especially tag team wrestling.
But you brought up a good point about this being the 80s. This seems very much like the old, I think it was a Wrestling Challenge. I'm blanking on it right now, being brain dead about it, but like, when they used to film a lot of things with like Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon, like on location doing like gimmicky slapstick stuff. And they used to do like, like here's Rick Rude and he's doing these like they did like these stupid little things all the time.
You're talking about Primetime.
That's right. Yeah. So
back in like, I want to say 91, they did a brief period of time where Primetime Wrestling turned into a studio television show hosted by Vince McMahon, kind of like Tuesday Night Titans. And it's just fucking stupidity. It's like, oh, here's Fuji Vice. Here's Don Morocco, Mr. Fuji, pretending to be Miami Vice. But like,
that's what they're doing, it seems like.
And that's fine. But you don't just drop it in the middle of a fucking pay-per-view.
I got a feeling even more, and I've mentioned this for maybe 2 years now or so. I don't remember when I started saying this specifically, but I really feel like more and more Vince McMahon's agenda with WWE is, I am sick and tired of this. I want to go back to when I had fun, and I want to prove that I'm right.
And I told you, I think that is, especially with Pritchard getting consolidation of both Raw and SmackDown.
Yep.
I think that's part of what it is. It's like, fuck it. Bruce, me and you and Patterson used to book everything. Why do we have 50 writers? Like, let's just have fun.
Like, he wants to just have fun doing the things that he liked, and he wants, like, he knows that he can't just do that. So the other half of it is, let me prove that the ideas that I had on these other eras, like the Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar thing, it was like they spent a good year or two going back to that to go, well, you didn't like it the first time, you're going to like it now, and stuff like that. Like, they keep doing things like that. And there's been a real big concerted effort from the past bunch of years, even going back to like Hall of Fame inductions, where Vince has gotten like more sentimental in his old age, I guess, where like, hey, like we're never going to do anything with Ultimate Warrior again. Let's bring him back. Let's kind of bury the hatchet. Let's bring this guy back. Let's do this. Let's do that. It seems like it's very much like I'm at the end of the road and I want to do a best of hits and I want to go back to the things that made me like I could go on a big long thing about this, but anybody who has had grandparents live long enough to see it where you're not a little kid when they pass away or something like that, this is very deep and, kind of disturbing to talk about it in this kind of thing. But like at a certain
Go
point,
for it.
you age past your grandparents. Like, and you do it for your parents too. Like,
Yeah.
When people get older, they kind of revert back to some childish natures. How many old people do you know eat healthy versus fuck it, I'm just gonna eat candy all day?
Right.
Or,
Or like
my
literally,
grandmother watches Me TV where it's like all it is like MASH and stuff. She doesn't want to watch any new TV shows because I guess it's just like, that's too far and it's too different. I want to watch the old stuff. Now, I feel like I might not end up being that type of old person if I'm lucky enough to be, 80, 90, 100, 400 years old,
nobody
whatever.
tell him that he already is.
Well, I mean, to a certain extent. But like, hey, as much as I will be fully willing to be like, you know what? No, I want to watch my good old Ninja Turtles the way that it used to be or something like that. I'm also like, hey, what's this new Ozark show? Like that kind of thing. Like it's just you get that type of thing with people to a certain age. And I really feel like Vince is doing that. And going back to the 80s slapsticky, goofy type of crap where I'm like, at any point now, the Looney Tunes type stuff might switch over to being the predominant thing. And I really don't want the Slammy Awards to come back and have Vince McMahon sing Stand Back.
You know what? I agree with you. And you can really see when people just become nostalgic for not only where he had fun, but where he was seen as a visionary.
Mm-hmm.
Like he wasn't just having fun. He was like, dude, you're changing the game and you're thinking so far ahead. And it's like I don't know. I think we are gonna see more of that. I do think it might become the predominant stuff, but I don't know if it's gonna be any good after tonight.
Oh, I know that it's not. I mean, I hated the Money in the Bank match. I hated this thing because the jokes themselves, they could work. And, I'm a fan of Star Wars outside of the most recent movies. And if you say somebody's going to do, I have to put that preference out there. Outside of like that kind of stuff, like if you say, "Hey, look at that!" Like, wouldn't it be kind of funny if like Ivar did the force pull and was able to grab a turkey leg? Yeah, in theory, it's funny, but it's ludicrous on this pro wrestling show. There's a certain matter of like tone that they need to kind of realize that they're going all over the place with. I don't like any wildly different tones in anything like that. I mean, the same thing applies to movies and stuff like that. Like the MCU, for instance, phenomenal movies. But if midway through Captain America: The Winter Soldier, that's like one of the most serious out of all of them, if it would have just become like people bashing each other in the head with mallets and flattening each other, I would have been like, this is insane. Now, in the middle of a Looney Tunes show, if Daffy Duck is like, saying the whole like doing his whole gimmick and whatever, and Bugs Bunny's getting chased around with Elmer Fudd, who I guess he doesn't carry a gun anymore. That's
So
the thing.
that's a new development. We can get into that eventually.
Is he carrying a walkie-talkie like an ET? Is that what they're doing?
No, I don't know what they're doing yet, but
I'm sure
he's
it's
not
awful.
carrying a gun, and it's just because of current state of affairs.
That's another discussion for another day on fanboysanonymous.com.
It's like taking a beer can out of the hands of Stone Cold because hey, we shouldn't promote alcohol.
Yeah. But like, even in the same regard, if I'm in the middle of watching a Looney Tunes show, I want that type of a thing. I don't want them midway through to start having some kind of like scenes that remind me of Requiem for a Dream where somebody's addicted to drugs or something. Like, tone. Keep a tone, My name's Tone. I know about it. And this tone was a wild shift, and I hated this whole segment.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can hear Callum now saying, "You guys spent far too long on that segment," but it was so ludicrous that we have to expand upon it to really get across the point of how ludicrous it was. It's not good. Like, you know what? The best rumor I've heard since the whole Pritchard thing is that they might consolidate the rosters. They won't. I have that on good authority, but I would rather them do so because we need to make these belts mean something again.
This is just... yeah, let's move on.
Well, we're not just moving on, Tony. We're moving on to the greatest wrestling match ever.
And
I've spent several days typing the words, the
I'm
greatest
sick of tired writing that too.
match ever. But I gotta tell you, and I'm gonna lead in with this and you can carry on. The one detriment to this match was WWE's production and marketing around the match.
Very much
because
so.
the match itself that Edge and Randy Orton put together was actually very, very, very good.
Well, we started this off with, for some reason, the Madison Square Garden microphone thing coming down.
Without that.
And I thought to myself, and I wrote this down, I said, oh, good Lord, don't make this another cinematic match after what we just saw. I was like, I can't do it.
Oh, I was pretty much expecting that.
And I don't know why it says MSG. Like, I know it's a reference to the whole Madison Square Garden thing that they used to do, but this isn't...
It's a reference to what they were about to do with the introductions.
Right, but it's like, they're not Madison Square Garden. It should have said WWE PC or something like that. Like, you know,
or just WWE.
That's a nitpick type thing.
Unless it's legitimately the old mic from Madison Square Garden that they just had sitting in the vault somewhere.
I still would have just taped a little WWE logo over it or something if I were them. But that's a nitpick. I'm sure anybody who's listening and going like, oh my God, you shit all over the last thing. You guys don't like any fun. You don't even like the MSG thing. It's a nitpick. I'm admit it. It's not the end of the world. But they had Charles Robinson in the old referee outfit. And I was like, oh, this is really scaring me now. And the match starts. And I immediately go, oh, fuck, they piped in crowd noise. And I ended up wanting to mute it. But I didn't. It was the type of thing that if you took this and you put this in front of an actual crowd, this would be a match of the year candidate, I think.
Oh, yeah.
If you muted this and just watched it with, the sound off and all that, fantastic match. But holy shit, was that a bad decision to do?
We talked about the Charles Robinson and the MSG mic, but you didn't talk about the one really sweet thing that they actually did, which was the lights went out, you had a spotlight over the microphone, and it was audio recording of Howard Finkel announcing Edge and Randy Orton, which is just a very sentimental thing, I think. And that was one of my favorite things, just because it was so nice, because, they started out with the cheesiness of Byron Saxton, Samoa Joe, who I'm going to get to, because he was phenomenal. And Tom Phillips saying, hey, these two guys deserve to be in a stadium full of thousands of people. So we're going to enhance your viewing experience by piping in crowd noise and, giving you different camera angles. And I thought that was cool, but I thought it was even more so like, if it's the greatest match ever, the Fink has to announce you to the ring. And that was special for me.
The Fink thing, very cool. The Madison Square Garden thing, I don't get it, but okay. The referee outfit, I don't think that that's really good, but okay, whatever. The crowd noise ruined it.
Yeah, I don't. Here's the weird thing. If you were gonna do that, why didn't you start that at Mania? You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we had already gotten used to the lack of crowd noise.
I brought that up in my Bleach Report review. I said, we've already watched not only multiple full episodes of Raw, SmackDown, NXT, all these other types of shows with the crowd to know what the crowd sounds like and the acoustics and stuff, but we also watched all the other matches on this particular card. So we know what it sounds like. And when you change the audio like that, it doesn't make it sound better. It makes it sound fake, which makes me go, oh crap, they were so hyperbolic about this greatest wrestling match ever thing. And it's insulting in a way. You know, it's that whole like when WWE, because WWE does this all the time and they've always done this. Every pay-per-view that just ended is the best pay-per-view of all time. Every match that just ended, oh my God, you couldn't believe how great that one, wasn't it? And then when you forget about it, then everybody just forgets about it. It didn't exist and stuff unless you need to bring it back up again. If somebody wrestled somebody once, epic rivalry. You know, bitter story of these two that fought each other. You know, oh, this dates back to for this
2
long
months ago.
rivalry 2 months ago, and like that kind of thing. Everything is so hyperbolic and it's ridiculous. But some of the stuff is understandable. Some of the stuff is like, you know, if they want to try to build hype to a pay-per-view, they're going to say it's going to be a great pay-per-view. I expect that. But this is the greatest wrestling match of all time. They started the match. The bell rings and they go, this is the greatest. It's like it hasn't even fucking started yet.
I think there's no better way to summarize that whole thing than Shawn Michaels on a UK media call saying, "Oh, I thought the match already happened," and I was like, "Oh my God, I need to see this." And then they called me to cut a promo previewing the match, and I thought, why would you put all that pressure on them?
Uh-huh. It's just so weird and it's so dumb, and they really shouldn't have ever done it because, and I'm going to quote another thing from my Bleach Report article because thankfully they didn't remove this from that or anything like that. And I think that this is kind of the line of the night for me, at least. I had written, because the match is great, like I said. Big fan of it. I like how Orton won with a low blow and a punt. I
Oh
like
my
that Edge was like, you know, putting up a lot of like he's trying about all his different finishers, different things like that. Great match. Like I really like I don't want to undersell the idea that this was a great match and you should go back and check it out and mute it and whatever. But the way I wrote it down was ultimately Edge and Orton pulled off a great meal of a feud and a subsequent match, especially considering that Edge tears his triceps apparently during this match.
God.
But WWE ruined its flavor by over seasoning it with the wrong spices. They added so much gaga bullshit to this, as Pat Patterson would say with the gaga, that it made this feel like it was stupid. And following the weird Street Profits thing, it was like, you know, I would be embarrassed about that if I were watching that with somebody who didn't already love me. You know, like, because it's just like, oh, this is the greatest thing of all time and it hasn't even started yet, and we're gonna have a fake crowd and whatever. I'm like,
I know.
it
It's
makes
one
me
of
feel
those.
like, okay, you think I'm that much of a gullible idiot that I'm just gonna do that? And then that made me think, is this what Vince wants? A fake crowd? Is that the perfect thing for him? Where he's just gonna go, look, I have my commentary team who's gonna tell you what to think, and I have my fake crowd that I'm going to doctor to react the way I want them to react. And you can't do anything otherwise. And if we just present it the way that I see it in my mind, then you'll believe it. And you know, if that's how they want to do it, it's not going to work because people aren't going to believe it.
The
And I,
shittiest thing is, if this would have just been in front of people,
and without that tagline
legitimately,
too.
legitimately could have been one of the greater matches in WWE.
You take this exact same match, move for move, and you put it in front of the crowd at a Elimination Chamber, and you don't call it the greatest wrestling match of all time. We write this as one of the match of the year type candidates.
And I'll say, like, the performers themselves, they utilized the greatest match thing to do some fun things they otherwise wouldn't have done, such as Edge hitting a rock bottom, Randy Orton hitting a pedigree, um, kicking out of multiple finishers, like if it's an NXT match. They had fun, like
They did a great job. Like, absolutely nothing that's negative on this
they could
is
put
on
this on
Orton or
Mania
Edge. Yeah.
in front of people. And it would have been like, dude, that was probably the match of the night.
Mm-hmm. So good. Like, this is not the greatest wrestling match of all time, but this is the greatest match on the card. This was the greatest match they've had in a while.
Greatest Edge no gimmick matches of all time.
Awesome match with a horrible audio thing.
I thought it was fun. And I love that Randy Orton, we didn't get into like some of the nuances here. Randy Orton laid Edge out on the announce table and whispered in his ear right into the microphone so you could hear him, "I'm gonna fucking kill you, motherfucker." It's like, wow. And they did not believe that. That was completely left in. Randy Orton started bleeding from, I don't know if it was his eyebrow or something, but he started bleeding. That added to it.
They didn't just suddenly switch that into black and white, which I thought that they were going to do. And I was like, if that goes to black and white, come on.
That would have been ruined. You saw a lot of things like Edge really trying to get over the head and arm choke called the
anti-venom. Great. Awesome
fantastic
touch.
Edge, it's the little things that people don't do anymore. And one of those things is the names of the moves. And I've always appreciated that Edge always had a good name for his stuff. The Edgecution, the Edge-O-Matic, the anti-venom, and then there's the spear. But the spear has a sharp edge, so it's all good. And a lot of stuff I loved. I hate the fucking injury. Fightful broke that. Sean broke that. I don't think I am telling tales out of school here when I say, when he told us that, my immediate reaction was, please say you're joking. Like, please tell me Edge did not get injured and is out for the rest of the year. One traditional match into his comeback. It was very disheartening for me.
I'll do you one better. I first saw this and I saw Edge injured in match and I went, oh, fuck. His neck.
Yeah. That's the weird thing about wrestling is everybody goes, oh, but it's okay because there's a torn tricep and it wasn't like it's his neck.
Yeah, it's like a few seconds later I read torn tricep and I'm like, oh, okay. He'll only be out for 8 months. It's like, but it sucks because it's like, man, all right, there goes that possible SummerSlam match, possible Survivor Series match. But
we're looking at the Royal Rumble again.
Maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Maybe he comes back with a crowd. Maybe
and he wins the Royal Rumble.
Maybe this gives him a little bit of time to come back in a way that if they do another Orton match, maybe it's something that's
I'm gonna put it out there right now. If he is out for 8 months, Randy's champion at Mania, Edge wins the Rumble, Edge beats Randy for the belt.
That could end up being the case too, yeah. Because Orton could be the type of guy that beats Drew McIntyre, and it's not going to make McIntyre look bad. There's a lot.
We said the exact same words last year about Kofi Kingston, and we got Brock Lesnar anyway. So there's always that option, boys and girls.
And Edge has, in the past, come back from injuries quicker than we thought. And he's come back from injuries that we thought we never would have him come back from. So if he's out 8 months, who knows? Maybe he's back in 6. Maybe they do some kind of research and they find out it's not as bad as it seems or something.
He hasn't commented yet. I'm guessing because obviously the match hadn't taken place yet.
Right.
But I'm hopeful that he just needs a few months off that he would have taken anyway because he's a part-timer. The comeback run is too good to have it just be 2 Randy Orton matches.
And hopefully by that time they've learned not to pipe in crowd noise and they don't ruin another one of his matches like that.
That being said, oh boy, do I wish WWE had an off season because I have no interest in looking at Raw, NXT, or SmackDown, outside of two things. I like the Sasha Bayley match on NXT, and I like AJ being IC champ. But I'm a little burned out on WWE right now, and I wish they had an off season.
Yeah, I mean, ideal situation, the go home show for every pay-per-view is supposed to make you really want to watch the pay-per-view, and the go home
And the
thought
pay-per-view
of the
should make
pay-per-view
you.
should make you go, I can't wait to watch Raw. And the
And
same
maybe
thing
I would be
for
saying that if I didn't know that Edge was injured and everything else on the show is just a placeholder to continue into Extreme Rules. I already know what Extreme Rules looks like because I watched the show.
Mhm.
It's going to be Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman in a cinematic whatever.
Or they continue to just give him another filler thing because it's like, he's going to be in a windshield match or some bullshit like that.
Demolition Derby.
And we're going to get Hardy versus Sheamus. We're going to get Asuka versus
Extreme
Nia
Rules.
Jax.
And something.
Maybe a triple threat that includes Charlotte, and they just call it a triple threat Extreme Rules match.
I'd be alright with that.
I just don't want to see it. Like, I just want them to move on because I don't want to see people hit themselves with kendo sticks and stuff. And then we're gonna get like maybe the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders have their tag team title match for real.
So
like, I just not liking a lot of that stuff, and it's a shame because it's like something like the Edge and Orton match, for instance. None of the negative is their fault. And Apollo Crews and Andrade, two great performers. But I've seen it. And Braun Strowman and The Miz and John Morrison, big fan of all three. Stupid segment for the most part. Like, just, it's WWE is the problem. It's not the performers.
I want to round this discussion out by talking a little bit about what we've learned with the Heyman departure. And one of the major things was that Vince wasn't happy that the young talent wasn't getting over. And I'm looking at an email I just got from WWE Shop, and the 4 people on the poster, granted they were all main key components of Backlash, but it is Edge, McIntyre, Orton, and Lashley, and those are 4 dudes who could have been on the same poster 13 years ago,
Yeah.
Maybe not 13, but a good 10. So is there something to be said for just WWE isn't creating anything fresh?
The things that they are creating fresh, they push aside. How many people have we seen in NXT that come up to the main roster and they go, no, your job is to lose?
But when you look at a match like an Edge versus Randy Orton, yes, hyperbole aside, the things that they're able to do and how Randy Orton was able to make you care because he used a punt that he hasn't legitimately used in I don't know how many years.
Practically a decade, probably, at this point.
Are those things missing from the NXT roster? And is that why, as good as the matches are, there's no lasting ability like there is with an Edge or a Randy Orton?
I don't think so, because I think, for instance, like when Ciampa and Gargano were doing the whole thing where they sit on the apron and they pat themselves in the back, that was references to things that they've done. Like, you can't do a legacy thing without building a legacy, so that's kind of one of those problems with let's talk about movies. The DC films, they tried to make Avengers as like their third movie. It's like it doesn't work that way, but that's where you can get through the MCU and you can do references and callbacks to movies that were 10 years ago and stuff. Is you build up that kind of stuff.
And then there's the argument of, again, another tie-in to WWE content. We're looking at The Undertaker in The Last Ride, right? Are Randy Orton and Edge over? Was John Cena over because they got to legitimately step into the ring and have long-term rivalries and story arcs with credible characters that came before them? You can argue, Austin Theory isn't getting these opportunities, or I don't know. I'm really barely here. Bo Dallas, didn't get the opportunity to feud with a Randy Orton for a period of time, or Triple H. Is that a problem?
That, and as much as a lot of people don't want to admit it, media has changed. Like, we do not have the same anything that we used to. Back in the day, Hulk Hogan would feud with Earthquake, and it would be that you showed
On house
one
shows.
match. Yeah, you show one match to everybody, and you build it up for like 6 months or whatever the hell, like, and you just do simple, stupid little things because you can get away with them having 2 seconds of an interaction on a show where all they do is they kind of bump into each other and they do like one clothesline, and people are like, "Oh my god, this was amazing," and they remember that because they only had one wrestling show per week that existed of maybe an hour, and it didn't have a whole lot of stuff on there, but they didn't have anything else going on as well. They couldn't just hop on YouTube or have their DVR preset with a bunch of different things. People consume media differently now. They consume differently now than they did 10 years ago. 10 years ago is different from 20 years ago. Considerably different. I mean,
So what is the best, and I don't know if we need this on a Backlash podcast, but what is the best form of media to get these stories across and make people care?
I think that WWE is in a business that doesn't lend itself to it. And that they can't do the same things that they used to do, and they can't book it the same way anyway. So the only way to really accomplish that is to just hope that you do a good enough job that people like it for the short window that they'll like it. Music's the same thing. Unless people are constantly changing who they are and getting like their 15 minutes of fame renewed all the time, nobody cares. I don't know how many DJ whatever is like the biggest thing in the world, and then 2 months later, nobody's ever heard of them again. Or like I can't even think of their names now. I'm thinking like a generic pop star person. It's like, oh, this person's blowing up the charts and she's the best thing in the world, or he's the best thing in the world. This band is like the biggest thing and they're gonna go platinum in a month. And then at the end of the year, it's like, oh, I remember that song. That kind of a thing. So it's like people just they have a short window now, and you can't book it as if it's like, well, we'll spend 3 months building up to something and hope that they stick around. And you can't give them the same thing week in and week out and expect them not to get tired of it. Like, I mean, look at this Apollo Crews and Andrade thing. Like, they really haven't done anything. They've had one
Right.
match that they've stretched out. Not even talking about Banks and Bayley. But, like, that's not effort from the Crews and Andrade thing. They're clearly not putting a lot of effort into it. And if you think that that's like, well, we're doing a whole lot of work and we're really spending our time like racking our brains about that, shit, I can tell you to do the same thing in 5 minutes and write 6 weeks of this episode by just going, these two continue to feud and they have a tag team match and it gets interrupted with a DQ. And you just go, okay, rinse and repeat over and over again. It's not hard. But like something like the Edge and Orton feud, this has been a feud, for instance, that has worked this year, I think. And it's worked because they already built themselves up for decades. We had a match at the Royal Rumble where they feuded. They didn't feud. They interacted with each other. And then over the course of these past 6 months, they haven't done it every week. And they've spent things being like, this is what we're building up to. This is the reason why we're feuding, and that's where we're going.
I will say, and then I guess I'll let you wrap it up, but this is the one exception where it worked to actually go from a crazy last man standing match to just wrestling in a 20 by 20 ring. And I guess what I'm saying is I am burned out. Right? Like,
me too.
Like, I am burned out on the traditional wrestling product. I was born in 1993. By the time we get to the Attitude Era and, the opening 20-minute promo segment and all that, I was 5. Wrestling has been the same, theoretically, structurally, since I was 5. Where is the fresh change of pace?
And if you say it's the cinematic match, then I don't want that fresh change of pace either.
And I will tell you this, the Boneyard match was fucking phenomenal. Do you know why that worked? Because it was built around the character of The Undertaker. Firefly Funhouse was a weird segment. Do you know why it worked? Because it was built around a legitimate backstory of Bray Wyatt and John Cena. Edge and Randy Orton worked tonight. If there's anything, I know we're rambling on about a lot, but if there's anything I want you to take away from tonight, it's that Edge and Randy Orton worked, in my opinion. I just don't want to see any more of the same thing over and over and over again, slapped with a different show title on it.
Well, if you don't like that, then stay tuned for Monday Night Raw. It's the red brand instead of the blue brand.
I mean, and that's never been more apparent than in this era where they're in the same building all the time.
Yeah, with the same crowd that's told what to do.
It's literally just red or blue.
And even then, sometimes if you're like me, you don't even watch it, you listen to it.
I know. I fuck it. I do a fucking post-show podcast every week for WrestleZone.com. I barely watch Raw.
It's hard to.
I skim through Raw as I'm doing other stuff in life, and I can still make a comprehensive podcast discussion on Raw because it's the same shit since I was 5. I don't know how we got here. I'm just venting.
We're going in this whole long different direction of that. We've gone from Looney Tunes to
it's becoming therapy hours, so I'll let you wrap it up. I just want to say kudos to Edge and Randy for actually pulling something great off, and I don't ever want to see the Street Profits interact with the Viking Raiders ever again.
I think ultimately what we're getting at is, why wasn't this called Stomping Grounds instead?
And then, I mean, if I could make one final point, Baba Tunde is big. Big Jordan is bigger.
Well, everybody tell us your thoughts on that. Not necessarily the fact that Big Jordan's bigger, we know that he is, but like on all that stuff. And drop the comments below. Go in different directions if you want to, too. I don't know. Maybe you want to start discussions about, what type of whatever else. I don't know. But
what type of cookies do you want for your vacation?
Yeah, cookies are great. Chocolate chip, always the best.
Always.
There's never a time in my life where somebody says, "Here's a chocolate chip cookie. Do you want it?" that I don't go,
yeah.
Well, and that means that I've got more than one thing in common with Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
Back to Backlash 2020. It was a thing. Extreme Rules is coming up in a couple of weeks. Who knows what we're getting?
2018. I don't mind telling you that.
I don't even remember what happened on that, but maybe.
AJ and Shinsuke kicked each other in the dick.
Well, imagine that being a cinematic match these days. The kick of the dick match is coming up at Extreme Rules. And then we're going to get the Jeff Hardy piss test match and all the other kind of things.
Bottle of piss on a pole match.
Yeah. So stay tuned for all that stuff, I guess. And stay tuned for whatever else we got coming your way. Yeah, we got a lot of things coming your way, of course. The next thing that we have scheduled for you is probably going to be the tier list rankings of the roster. So that's going to be something a little bit different. We're going to do that maybe Wednesday or so, maybe Thursday. Kind of depends on some kind of recording situations. Probably Wednesday, though. And we'll do another hot tags, and then we'll roll along with the rest of the month where we have a little bit of free time to do some stuff. And we're going to do at the beginning of July the next quarterly mailbag. So start thinking of some questions you want to send our way, and if you want to send them in advance, go ahead and send them. I'll backlog them. Anything else that you will be hearing from us will be on the feed somewhere here and there. So if you do have the subscription little bell ringing notification thing, then you will be aware of when that gets posted. If you are following us on Facebook and Twitter at Smark at Moment, same kind of thing. SmarkAtMoment.com as well for all the other things that aren't on the podcast side of things. FanboysAnonymous.com for that kind of stuff over there. I've got my other things as well, and I'll wrap this up and go back to me in a minute, but I'll give Rob a little bit of a chance to ramble because I've been rambling for a minute or so now.
I'm surprised you're giving me more of a chance to ramble after I just fucking took this podcast in another direction. But as I just mentioned, I do regularly work for WrestleZone and Fightful.com. Those are great wrestling websites. I already mentioned Sean Ross Sapp and Fightful Select broke the story about Edge's torn tricep. So, subscribe to Fightful Select. I really do think it's the best news source in the business, and not just because I work there, but because I see how hard Sean works making sure that these are legit, credible sources. You won't ever see anything posted just because this might be true. These things are vetted through and through. And, check out WrestleZone, WrestleZone Daily. The podcast for WrestleZone is up on Spotify now. I did that. So check it out on Spotify. Just keep checking me out. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DudeFelice. And Callum and I have the episode 0 of Paul Heyman SmackDown coming your way this Saturday, June 20th. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to toss this dangerous baton of plugs right back at Tony. Catch.
And now I got it. So I will just be doing my things all over the place that I normally do. At Tony Mango on Facebook and Twitter, at A Mango Tree, Fanboys Anonymous, Smark Moment, blah, 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 e-wrestling news, Playture Report, so on and so forth. You know where I am, and you can find me on all those places and keep chucking all that stuff. But whatever we've got coming your way, if you're listening to it, I greatly appreciate it. And hopefully you guys are all having fun, you're all staying safe, and you're all rolling along here the best way that you can, because Monday Night Raw is coming, so we're going to start this all over again. Must be Monday.
Son of a bitch.
So, yeah, we'll do that, and we'll see you then, everybody. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.